iron in their soul. What's up, my boy? This is Iron in the Soul. Back with another video. Please subscribe to my channel. Like this video, share, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about my content. Let's get to work. Let's talk about, in this video, Tupac Shakur's evolution in his thinking concerning women. Many of you have probably seen a video online of a younger Tupac Shakur at 17 years of age when he's discussing his respect for women. And I think his exact terminology, words he used was he had this much respect for women. He was very respectful, and his perspective was based on his opinion of his mother. He held his mother in high esteem, even though she struggled with addiction to drugs. She was still a woman who had concern for the community, who was a leader in the community at one point, and raised Tupac by herself. And so as a single parent home, as a son being raised by a single mother, obviously he had much respect for his mother. Very similar to LeBron James, as well as Kevin Durant, Waka Flocka Flames, and others who have been raised by their mother without the support of their father. And so he had that respect for women based on that. However, once Tupac became a man, and more importantly, became a man who was known, the most popular black man at that point, young black man, in the 90s, at around 23, 24 years of age. And so Tupac Shakur began to experience the other side of that coin. And he began to see how women would treat him and how there was a lot of scandalous things happening. And so his evolution went from having a song that was entitled Dear Mama, which he actually meant, as well as Brenda Had a Baby, which he actually meant, to You're Skandalouz. And beginning to experience the treachery that was out in the streets. And this is something I think happens to a lot of young black men. When you have a high opinion of black women based on your experience with your mother or auntie or school teacher. I think about my own life, just the high opinion I had of my grandmother, who was like an angel to me for many years. Rest in peace to my grandmother, Ma Kelly. And just all the time that, she invested into me. I won't get into a long story about that. It's very personal. But I had a very close bond to my grandmother and held her in very high esteem, even to this day, many years post her death. And even to this day now, I have a picture of her in my pocket, which I won't pull out, that I keep. And from time to time, I look at the picture and I smile because I'm reminded of the memories, the good times, and the love and comfort that my grandmother brought to my life. It reminds me of DMX and his insight on his relationship with his grandmother as well, ironically enough. And he talked about how, everyone, no matter how tough they are, no matter how much of a strong man you may be, every human has a need to be someone's baby. And I think that's a very true statement. I don't care who you are, how alpha you are as a man. Before you were a man, before you were alpha, you were a human. And as a human, we desire love, and more importantly, love from our mother and grandmother, which is a very common and normal thing, by the way. That's just the way it goes. And so, having experienced that at home, people like Tupac Shakur, DMX, Chief Keef, even recently, he mentioned his grandmother on the intro of his CD. He had his grandmother actually talking, and she was saying how she's so proud of him, and you're doing yourself and doing yourself well. And having that background and base, I think about my grandmother. I think about one of my favorite school teachers, Miss Rhonda, who was actually a black female teacher who left a very strong impression upon me as a boy. And so what happens is this. I think what happened with Tupac Shakur, as well as myself and others, you get out into the world and you begin to see that what you're experiencing at home, what you're experiencing in school in some cases, isn't what's necessarily out here. And so it wasn't that he began to hate black women. It was he was beginning to see how others thought. And he began to see the game plan and the lies and the backdooring and the scandals and lying on men, having men put in prison for things they didn't do. He began to see that there's two sides to a coin. And that's something that a lot of people have experienced. I think even Malcolm X went through that. And in fact, he was even criticized very harshly for his stance on women. A lot of women quote his quote, the most disrespected woman in America is a black woman. And black women love that quote. But they don't understand that the same man who said that was the same man who many people at that time deemed as anti-woman because of his militant stance on the roles of men and women. And so people need to have the whole story. And so I don't think that Tupac ever had a hatred for black women, just as I don't have hatred for black women. My wife is a black woman. I have 2 black daughters. But what I do have a disdain for is what has happened to so many of our women and how so many of our women have been unfortunately poisoned by years of propaganda, by years of systemic racism, and by years of indoctrination. And that's not an indictment against every black woman, because that would mean my wife, that would mean your mother, that would mean Tupac's mother. That's an insane and a foolish statement. So it's not an indictment against every black woman, but it is a statement to say that this is a problem with a number of women in our community. And this is something that Tupac Shakur learned by experience and made very clear through his speeches as well as his music. So I want to give you just a short piece of game concerning Tupac Shakur and the evolution of his thinking concerning black women. This is Iron and Soul. Please feel free to follow me. Take care. God bless. Peace.